Hey everybody, this is Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. How are you guys today? We are doing a really fun project. This is a fun fold card, and I am using the from the mini catalog. I am using the Brave Vikings Stamp Set. It's on page 73 of my mini catalog. This set is available through the end of June 2022. It is on the last chance list, so grab it while you can. I do have links in the description below where you can see all the products that I'm using. I'm also using the timber embossing folder for all of the wood grain on the side of my faux box boat. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to make this really fun happy birthday card in a box. You can fold it flat for mailing, but it is a little box when you put it on a mantelpiece or on a table or on a desk. So it's a really fun card to make. Let's go ahead and get started, and I will show you how to go about it. So for the base of our little box, we're going to use soft suede, and we need a piece of 9 by 5. Here it is. And then we are going to put some pieces on the inside of the box that all of the little pieces are stuck to. So they're like the core, you can kind of see it in there, of the box. And I'm using a piece of Sahara sand for that. It's 3 1/8 by 3 1/8 square. We're going to score both of those pieces. I did go ahead and ahead of time color in our boat and our girl and our guy Viking, and I've used my Stampin' Blends here. I've used Sweet Sorbet for the sail, bronze for the boat, dark crumb cake for the paddles and for the circle parts, and then I used the light Tahitian Tide and the light Bermuda Bay for the little waves that I made. For the girl and the guy Viking, I used dark crumb cake for his vest and this bottom panel of his shirt. Her whole dress is in dark crumb cake. Then I used the bronze for his boots and her boots, for his little sash that's under the vest, and for the little handle of his little dagger, for her little bag that's in bronze also, and also the handle of her spear. For their hair, I used the So Saffron Light and the light Pumpkin Pie to do all the highlighting, kind of like a strawberry blonde color. And then I used the light crumb cake for his horns. And then for her spear, I used the light gray granite, and then I highlighted it with the darker of the gray granites. I used the light on the top of her little hat, and for the band of it, I used the dark, and the circles, I used the light. For his little shield, you can see where I used the light and the dark gray granite, also the same thing for his little helmet. So those are those pieces. We are also going to be making this flag, and we're going to use some strips of cardstock and a piece of white cardstock to make our little flag here. And then we have a large piece, skinny piece of soft suede that we're going to use for the little holder for that. So these are the pieces that we are using. Now for the 9 by 5 soft suede piece, we are going to use our, I'm going to move these blends out of the way since I've already colored. We're going to bring this in so you guys can see. And we're going to score on the long end, which is the 9-inch length. I'm going to grab my stylus. And we are going to score at 2 1/8, which is the 1 tick mark past the 2. At 4 1/4, which is 2 tick marks past the 4. 6 3/8, which is 3 tick marks past the 6. And at 8 1/2, which is 4 tick marks past the 8. So you see it graduates 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, 3 tick marks, 4. So 2 1/8, 4 1/4, 6 3/8, 8 1/2. We're going to turn it to the short side, and we're going to go 3 3/4 of an inch. So 3 3/4, which is the little bit taller tick mark closest to the 3 here, but 2 3/4 of an inch. So this is the base of our box, and this is the top of our box. We're going to use, on this 3 1/8, we're going to do another scoring. So we're going to score 1/2 inch on each side. So we're going to do 1/2 inch on this side, and we're going to rotate it around and do 1/2 inch on this side. And then I'm going to trim that piece of the 3 1/8 inch. I'm just going to cut it in half. So we're going to do it at 1 1/2. So that would be half of 3, right? So 1 1/2. And then we're going to go one tiny little tick mark. And that's the halfway point. So there is my 2 pieces. And we do need the 2 pieces to go across, but it's just easy to cut it all at once. So let's go ahead and score all of our score marks. So that you can see those really well. Let's do the ones on our small pieces here. We're going to have one in each direction. So I'm going to kind of make it look like a Z there. And one the other way. So there's those 2 pieces. And here's this. Now we're only going to cut away one piece. We're going to cut this corner off at the top. So the longer piece is the base. And they see how the flaps are shorter. So we're going to trim away on the short piece, the short end. Here's the short one and the longer. This thin flap from the side. And then this is going to get attached. Now this piece is going to form the back. So we need it to be cut straight down this flap. Excuse me. So this is the back. This is going to be our back pieces. These 2 pieces are going to be cut on either one on either side here. And this middle, I'm going to cut on either side of the score line because I don't want the score line to show. And then I can just pull that. Do the same thing here. And we're going to get rid of this middle section. I don't want there to be a front flap on my box. I really want you to be able to see all of those little guys in there. So I'm just going to trim this piece off. So this is what you have left when you're done. So you've cut this piece off here and this piece off here. So you have the little narrow one on the short side. This is the longer end, and then you skip one, and then you cut down both of these. I have to trim the score mark off like I did of the other one. I forgot to do that, guys, sorry. I want to get rid of that little extra bulk in there. All right, so see how there's a little space now. So that's what gets cut away. If you want to take a picture of that, you can. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the components of our box. So we don't need these pieces. These I'm going to set to the side. We're going to go ahead and glue our box together. So I'm going to use some wet glue. And I'm going to just put it on this little flap right here. And I'm going to line that up. And like I said, that's going to form our back of our box. These are our 2 side flaps. And then this is our back anchored piece. Now, we're going to do a little bit of ink blending. So I'm going to grab my scrap piece of paper here that I like to use when I do my ink blending. And I have 2 pieces that are basic white. They are 4 7/8 by 2 inches. I'm going to do one at a time. And I'm gonna start with my Coastal Cabana, with my Tahitian Tide, and then Coastal Cabana. So we'll start with Tahitian Tide. I'm gonna swirl that around. I'm gonna dab off the extra, and then I'm just gonna come in different places and just add, gonna add a little bit more. Just add some of that blue in different parts. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other one. I'm just adding in circular motion, adding a little bit of blue. I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more on this one, just with what's left on there. Now I'm gonna come in with my Coastal Cabana. And I'm gonna do the same thing, just with a different color. And I'm gonna fill in those white spaces. I want this to look like water. Just like that. So there's our two pieces of our basic white that have been sponged. Now we're not done with our sponging. I have used our Timber 3D embossing folder that I talked about at the beginning, and that is what is on all of these little flaps all the way around on 3 sides of the base and on the 2 flaps that stick out on the sides. I have run it through my die cut machine, and when I pull it out, this is what we have. We have this really cool timber, but I really want it to stand out a little bit more than it does. So I'm gonna grab my crumb cake ink and a blending brush, and I'm gonna do the same thing, kind of how I did here. I'm just gonna rub it over the different pieces and really bring that wood grain out like that. So I'm going to do it to the 2 flat pieces. And then I have the 3 base pieces that are going to go around the outside. But I really like how it draws that wood grain right out there, and it gives you kind of a two-toned look to your wood. So that is that part right there. So now we have just a little bit more stamping. Set that to the side. We're going to stamp our happy birthday. And it says, "Happy birthday, you've conquered another year." We're going to use Early Espresso, and we're putting that on a piece of Coastal Cabana. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up and get that part out of the way. And then we'll work on our little, what do you call it? Flag or sail that's at the top of our. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that. This is a little piece. I'll measure it in a second, but I think it's 1/2 inch by 2 inches. Might be a little bit bigger than 2 inches. So let's look. So it is 1/2 inch by 2.5 inches. That's that piece. And we're going to trim the edges. So I'm going to angle cut like that. We'll set that to the side to attach onto our box when we're all done. So I like to do all the parts and pieces first, get all of them ready, and then do the assembly last. To me, it just makes things way easier. I have already cut out, stamped and cut out, I fussy cut the male and the female Viking and the little boat. So I talked about what I used, some Stampin' Blends and the colors that I used for those. So we'll go ahead and go with that. Now let's go ahead and do our sail. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to bring in my silicone mat and I'm going to place my little piece of cardstock. Let's see what size it is. I think it's just a scrap, but it looks like it's 2 inches, my baby, 2 inches. Yeah, approximately. It's not exact, but approximately 2 inches by 2 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a line of adhesive on the edge here. I'm going to stick this little piece of, it's a 1/4 inch. I just cut some strips of 1/4 inch thick. And this is our sweet sorbet. So I'm gonna put one right there to hold the place, and then I'm gonna put a line of adhesive, and then I'm gonna glue another one down. All right. I'm going to lift that middle one up because I want a white stripe. Does that make sense? I'm going to put it back down here, and I'm going to put another line. We'll stick another one of these guys down here. Perfect. And it's kind of like a placeholder. I'm going to lay it right here, and I'm going to put another line of glue, and I'm going to, that one's kind of narrow. It's a little narrower than 1/4 inch. I think I'm gonna move this one over and just eyeball it. There we go. All right, so we have our 4-striped sail. I don't want this end, so I'm gonna trim that off, which is why you can just use a scrap. And then I'm gonna trim these pieces off. Okay, and you're going to cut all of those ends off. You can make it as wide as you want, whatever size your little scrap paper happens to be. Mine was 2 inches, so that's what I rolled with. All right, and we're going to throw away those little scraps. That's what I'm trying to do right now. All right, so this is going to be my little flag. It's going to run up and down. So I'm going to come here in the center of this little white piece, and I'm just going to snip right down the center, and I'm going to come from this point, and I'm going to meet that part at the top. So I'm going to, just like that, pull that away. Do the same thing from this side. And then there is my little sail. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to attach, looks like I have some glue attached on the back there. Let me grab that. There we go. Right down the middle there, I'm just going to put a line of glue. And I've cut this 1/4 inch piece of soft suede. I want it to stick out just a little bit at the top, and it's going to be our mast that the sail is on. And there is our sail. So now we have all of our components. So now we can start assembling our box. So I'm going to just put it to the side here. And on this front panel, I'm going to take one of these wide pieces, the longer pieces, flip it to the side that doesn't have the blending, that we put the blending of the crumb cake on there. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down. I will do this other side of the box that I have right here next to it. And then I will do the last piece on the other side. Come on. All right, let's put it this direction. And we'll grab the last long piece. So as you can see, we're starting to make it come to life now. So let's attach that one. Okay, so those are the 3 sides. Let's attach our flaps. So we have the 2 smaller pieces. I'm not sure if I gave you the dimensions of those, so let me give you those while I'm gluing them on. The 2 smaller pieces are 2 1/8 by 2 inches. And those are for the 2 side flaps. So those are 2 1/8 by 2 inches. Now the longer pieces for the bottom, you need 3 of those. Those are 2 5/8 by 2 inches. So 2 5/8 by 2 inches, you need 3 of those. And the ones for the 2 side flaps, you only need 2 of the 2 1/8 by 2 inches. So let's pull down this little flap and glue this little wood grain part on there. Now this is our back, and as you can see on here, our back has these pieces, okay? So we're gonna start with this. I'm gonna put adhesive on the whole piece. See why I use the silicone mat? Because I am like dangerous with this wet glue. And when I use on the silicone mat, I can just like pick it back up. It rolls into like a little ball of glue, and I can just throw it in the trash can. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and slide this in, and I'm going to attach it onto my piece here. That helps to get rid of that score mark that we put on there, but we have to have the score mark so we can get all these lines. So that's this piece. We're gonna put another one on the back, and you need 2 of these, and they're 4 7/8 by 2 inches. So let's go ahead and put the glue on the second one. This is the one that they're gonna write, you can write on a sentiment on the back. Put whatever you wanna say to the recipient of your cool card in a box, or box in a card. I guess either way, whichever way you wanna say it. So I'm gonna flatten this. I'm gonna attach it to this section here. And this is going to be the back. So you see that when you do that, you don't see that seam at all. And that piece stays nice and strong in the back. So that's the part that goes up. Now we're going to glue in these 2 Z pieces that we cut in the beginning. That was from the 3 1/8 by 3 1/8 that we scored 1/2 inch on each side and then cut it down the center. So these are going to be the parts that are in our box, and they're going to be wedged so that we have something to attach all of these little guys that are going to pop up off of. So I just want to make sure that my piece is scored nicely, because if it isn't, it won't glue in there. So I'm just going to use my bone folder here and just really make sure that I have it nice and scored. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to put adhesive on both sides, both of these little 1/2 inch flaps. And I'm going to kind of bow it a little bit. I'm going to start by putting this flap in, and it's going to butt up to the front of my box. And I'm going to press that in place. And I want it to be tall, right to the front there. And then this other section is going to be pushed into place right across where it fits. And one way to do it is to smush it down like this flat and then press it into place, and that way it'll be in the exact spot where it needs to be for your card to be flat. So that's your first piece. Now we're going to do another one. We're going to do it from the back end. So let's do that again. So we're going to put adhesive on both of these pieces. You can also use sticky strip if you think that it's too messy to use a wet glue. I don't usually have a problem with the wet glue, but I have seen plenty of people use our tear and tape or sticky strip or some kind of tape adhesive. So again, this time we're going to start at the back corner, and I'm going to kind of bow it a little bit so it doesn't really stick to this right side, it sticks to this left side. And I'm going to put that piece in first, and I can rub that glue off of there. And I'm going to get that in its spot, and then I'm going to go ahead and position this one. And remember, the way I told you to do it is go ahead and let it fall where it flaps. and it will give you the perfect placement if you go ahead and close it. That's exactly where it flaps. Okay, so now we have our 2 pieces. If you have any of the wet glue, like I think I just stuck some down, I'm just gonna run my finger and pick that up real quick because I don't want it to get stuck where it doesn't need to be. And I'm gonna use I have a little adhesive remover. I'm gonna stick that in there and grab that excess that's down in there. Which is why if you want to use the tear and tape, it works. But if you do use the wet glue, and you have these little these little erasers for the adhesive, it works out really well. I just like to lay it flat. It's a lot easier to rub if you have it down onto a flat surface, and you can see how it rubs that glue right off of there. So now we have our cool little box section. You can actually put a 3rd one in there if you want one. I only needed that one. So what I've done now is I've used some window strips, some window sheets, and I've cut 4 lengths. I have one that's a little longer than the rest, and then I have the other 3. And we are going to use these to attach our little people to the front of our little box here. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to attach this piece with mini glue dots. It's the easiest, fastest way to do it. So you're going to reveal your mini glue dot, and you're going to grab your first piece, and you're going to put a glue dot on that end and then lift it up. Can you see that glue dot? Hopefully it's in camera really well. We are going to attach that. We're going to put it on this little guy's kind of in between here, but more to the side of his leg. Okay, and we're going to make sure that it's straight. And then he is going to go in the front right here. So he's gonna just stick up, and it's a little bit too long. So I do make them a little longer than they need to be, just to make sure. I wanna have enough room, and I want him to kind of stick up on this end of my box. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold right there so I can put glue dots underneath where my fingers are. So I'm gonna go ahead and unroll a few of these and reveal them one at a time. I'm just going to hold my finger where I don't want any, and I'm going to put below there, right on the front, because remember, it's going to stick to the front part of this box. I'm going to put another one. And the more you put on here, the more secure your piece is going to be. So don't be afraid to put, plenty of these little mini glue dots. You get a bunch of them on the roll, so don't be afraid to use them. Okay, so I put 4 on there. Okay, I have 1 holding him onto the window sheet, and then I have 4 of them right there. So now I'm going to slide it in, and then once I get that little glue dot where I want it, positioned him where I want him, I'm going to press that to the front of this box. So it's getting glued to the front flap here, not onto this piece yet. Okay, so see how he stands up nice? And he moves around because he's on that window sheet strip. All right, now I'm gonna move to the back of my box, and I'm gonna stick to this flap next. And I'm gonna do my little sail here, okay? So I have this piece here that I'm gonna stick, and I wanna make sure that my sails kind of stands up real tall. I want it to show really well above that water. So I want to hold where that is. Okay, so I'm going to put my finger where that is. And so this bottom section, this is all that's going to be attached to my piece. Okay, so that's where my glue dots are going to go. And then I'm going to stick that on. I'm putting it on the wrong side, guys, sorry. You have to put it to the front because we're gluing it to that front piece. Let me remove this one. Luckily, they're pretty easy to strip off of there. I'm gonna grab the other one. And I'm gonna put it where that one was, on the front. And what I like to do is to make this a little bit stronger is I am going to glue this window sheet to that piece on the back so that it's nice and taut, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this over so that those glue dots don't stick. I'm gonna grab some mini glue dots and I'm gonna stick them to this strip of my window sheet that I have cut that will fit behind that little mast that I formed. And I'm gonna go ahead and stick those little glue dots on there. I will tuck anything that's sticking over the side. And then I'm gonna make sure that it is nice and strong and that it is attached. Anything that's sticking out, again, stick it to itself there. And then this is gonna help reinforce my mast in the back. I still have my two here. And I'm gonna slide that in, and right in the center, I'm going to stick that in there. But because I have that window sheet behind my cardstock, it gives it a nice stiff feel there. Let me pull some of this strip off. We're using these little mini glue dots. All right, 2 more pieces to go, our girl and our guy. All right, so I have these 2 pieces of window sheet left. Let's go ahead and do our boat next. So we're gonna stick our boat kind of in the middle in front of that mast section. And I'm gonna grab a mini glue dot and I'm going to attach it to one end of this piece and put it right there where my boat is, okay? And I wanna figure out how far down or how far up I want my boat to be. I want it kind of high, so I'm gonna hold my finger where it is. And so anything below my finger can get the glue dots. Now they're gonna be on the front because it's gonna stick to this piece. So on the front where your boat is, you're gonna put some mini glue dots down this side. So let's go ahead and reveal some. We'll stick them to my window sheet. Let's reveal another one. They're kind of spaced apart. I'm gonna do 3. Let's pull the other one. And then put that one near the bottom. And then I'm gonna put my little boat in there and I'm gonna attach it so that it's kind of to the side and kind of up high like that. See what we have so far? So we have our mast, and we have our boat. Now comes our little girl. Again, we're gonna put a glue dot on our window sheet and we'll stick this right here on the back of my girl. Let's see how high up we want her. She's gonna be on the same place where the boat is, but she's gonna be more to this side, okay? So I'm gonna put her on, I'm gonna put it, her a little bit lower. I wanna make sure she fits good. And I want her about right there. So my finger is there and I'm gonna put all on this back section behind her, the glue dots. It's gonna stick to this back flap. So now that I've revealed some mini glue dots, I'm gonna put them below my finger. So I'm gonna put maybe 3 of those. And then there is the last one. And then I'm gonna stick her in front. The boat is on the back, and this one, she's gonna go in front, but I'm gonna push her up against that piece. Just like that. You can stick your finger in your box. And then there they are on the card. You can see when you fold it flat, it does close. The last little piece that we have is our words that we stamp. So let me clear everything out here except for our words. I'm gonna get my wet glue and I'm gonna put some wet adhesive on the back of this Coastal Cabana piece. I'm gonna use my tweezers to pick that up and I'm gonna lay it flat. Excuse me, I have allergies. And of course, I pick today to do my filming when I'm sneezing, but I apologize, but it is real life television. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and attach my happy birthday there while it's flat. I wanna make sure it's straight. So I'm gonna straighten that out. And press that into place. Just like that. All right. And there are the two flaps of our boat on the side. And there is the front. There is our really cute happy birthday Brave Vikings card in a box fun fold card. So if you want to put it in an envelope, you can just slide it in. Like I said, it does fold flat, or you can just give it like this. You can bring it over with your present and, you know, bring it like this. I think I'm going to put some blue on her eyes because her eyes are open, whereas his are closed. I'm going to put a little dot of the Tahitian Tide and make her eyes blue. I think I forgot that when I was coloring prior to coming on here. But again, the colors that I used are Sweet Sorbet, Gray Granite, light and dark, Pumpkin Pie, light, So Saffron light for their hair. I used both crumb cakes, the light and the dark. The only thing I used the light for were his horns. The dark crumb cake is the vest and his sash under the vest and her dress. The bronze is the dark brown that I used for their boots for highlighting her dress and for highlighting his vest, his little top part of his shirt there, and the handle of his armor. And I used number 900 for their skin. And then for the water back there on the boat, I used Tahitian Tide. I believe it's the light Tahitian Tide and the light Bermuda Bay to accent the water. The ship is bronze, and the paddles and the circles are in crumb cake, and the sail is in Sweet Sorbet. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I love making fun projects for you on my YouTube channel. You can see this sail was a little bigger. I had a bigger piece of scrap paper. So make it however you think looks best. I hope that you enjoyed this. I certainly did. I'm going to lay one down here for you to see one up, one down. Don't forget, Brave Vikings is on last chance, so grab that while you can. I do have a video on my YouTube channel that shows a walk through the mini catalog, and it helps you mark it for all the discounts that we have going on. Things are first come, first served, so hopefully they have not sold out before you get a chance to grab them. I thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and if you want to save this video to use at a later time, hit that share button. Share it to your Pinterest, and you can pin it to one of your boards, and that way you can hold on to the project for when you're ready to make this really cool card in a box. Thanks for joining me. This is Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. Happy stamping, guys!